This video will demonstrate frequency coordination management within Path Designer. I'm showing you currently the main format Path Designer here, and I'm going to open up the Path Manager, and you'll see we have 12 paths. These 12 paths, if I switch it to a PCN status view, you can see that there's no PCN status set for any of them. No date, no renewal dates, no numbers, PCN numbers or files, and no channels. So this is a system. Actually, it's part of a real system, but it's a system which has been designed. It's ready to be coordinated and frequency licensed, but it currently has not gone through that process. So I'm going to show you the steps in order to coordinate through ComSearch and or Micronet, and how to get channels and send information to these guys, get it back through their documents, load it into the tool, and keep track of all the data at the same time, all the dates, including alerts when things are due. So I start by selecting the paths, and what I want to do is I want to create a document in the format that I'm working with ComSearch in this example that ComSearch will accept. It's an Excel report that in the format that they've requested. So for the paths that I've selected, and I could have just selected one or two, but I've selected them all for this exercise, I go to my channel menu and I ask it to create a PCN form, which is really an Excel report. It asks me if I want to set the PCN status within the tool, within my database of the tool, to submit it. That's a good idea because it allows me to know what's been submitted and when. So yes, I will do that. I continue, and it creates the report, which I'm going to submit to, in this case, ComSearch. So it tells me it's complete, and I'll look at the Excel report here. So this is, as I say, the format that they've requested, and you can see the paths here and the structure types and the antennas, the bands, the transmit power and losses, and RSLs and fade margins, and everything they need to know. Latitude, longitude, EIRPs, elevations, azimuths, and so on. So this is what we would then send to for coordination. We could include additional information at the top if we want to add notes or explanations. If I go back to my PCN status view within Path Designer, you can see in the column for PCN status, they've all been set as submitted normal, excuse me, and the date has been set. This is today's date. It was set based upon today because I just created this report to go to the coordination body. So what I want to do now is I send this off to ComSearch. They're going to come back and they're going to give me some documents. In the case of ComSearch, it's a Word document. In the case of Micronet, it's going to be a rich text document. But those documents come back, and I want to load that data easily into my tool to be stored with the database as part of the tool. But this data will be a problem because the tool has a mechanism that it will not allow you to bring old data into the tool. So if I try to load a document with a date which is older than the date in the tool, then it's not going to allow me. There's a protection mechanism. And since I'm working with old documents from ComSearch, it will be blocked by today's date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this date to an earlier date within the tool. I'm just going to edit them. And then when I go to the next step, which is importing data back from ComSearch, it will be allowed in. So I'll just do this edit. I'll pause the video while I edit it, so it's not make you wait, and we'll be back in a second with the new date. Okay, so you now can see it's January 8th of 2014, 4 years ago. So now I'm ready to load in the data that's come from ComSearch. ComSearch has sent me back a number of files, which I'll show you here. These are all, as I say, Word documents. I'll just open one of the larger ones just to see it here, so you can get an idea of what the document looks like. So this is a standard ComSearch path data sheet that comes back, includes the channels. Each page is one path normally. In this case, I've got, looks like 3 paths in the one document. So this is what we're going to, all this data we're going to read into our tool. So I'll close it, and I'll go to my channel menu here, and I'm going to click Read PCN Datasheets. Now it asks me if I'm reading in a ComSearch document or a Micronet document, because they're different formats. I'll say yes for ComSearch. It asks me if I want to have the PCN status set to receive, so I know that it's come in, and it'll get tagged with the date that's in the document as well. So I'll say yes. And it's asked me if I want to import the data or just see a report. I want to import and see a report, so I click yes. And do I want to set the renewal date of the PCN for 180 days later? Normally the date that comes in on the document, if we take that date and we add 180 days, that's when it's due to be renewed, and that will, within Path Designer, will drive an alert. So as we approach that date, if the tool is open, it will recognize the date's been approached, and it'll raise a flag if it's within 30 days. And if we're past the date, will also, of course, give me an alert that we've gone beyond the date. So yes, I want to auto set that date, and I go select the PCNs, and I say open, and it scans through them, looking at all the data in them. If any of the files is not healthy, has a problem, if there's information missing, it tells me, and it generates the report that I mentioned, showing me discrepancies between what's come in from the PCN data and what was in the tool, as well as in the path loss PL5 files, which are associated with the project within Path Designer. So here, this is our report. You can see the PCN file that came in here, which paths and are brought in. The color coding tells me, for example, these red ones are telling me that these paths are not in Path Designer, and that's because I deleted some paths prior to preparing this demo, but they still exist in the PCN document. The yellow text tells me there's a discrepancy between what's in the PCN document and as compared to the path loss file that's associated with the path in Path Designer. So you can see the differences. Same for elevation at each end, the band, of course, path lengths, any differences, radial models. There's a lot of information in here, and it's flagged when there's changes. So if I look, for example, at transmit power, you can see a few of them are different. And off on the right here, we'll get the channels. There we are. So these are the channels here. This is site A transmit channels. This is the other end transmit channels. And as I said, there's a lot of other information in here. So this is a very good report of what's come in. Now if I go back to my path manager and I filter on all PCN statuses, you can see what came in is received here. You can see the date. This is the date that was on the, rather in the Word document files that I brought in. This is the renewal date 180 days later, the PCN number from within the document, and whether or not there's a file attached within Path Designer, which there is because I brought them in, and the number of channels. Now before I show you details, you'll notice, I'll slide this across, in the main form you can see PCN renewal is due. Essentially the tool has looked at this renewal date, compared it with today's date, which is 2 years later or a year later, and it's realized we're way overdue. So it's raised this flag. So if I click on here, it brings up a little text file telling me what the renewal date is, how many days are remaining, that's within the 30 days prior to the end, or overdue beyond the date, and which path we're talking about. So it's just the ones that are failing or are approaching the due date. So this is a good little report to have. And of course, it's always, whenever you do any changes, if I was to go in here and edit the date, this little alert would be updated appropriately. So now if I go and open one of these, I can look at, went into the path details, I can go to channels from there. I could have gone through the channel menu, I'll show you that next. But in this environment, you can see the status, you can see the date, which is from that document, the renewal date 180 days later, the channels that came in out of the document, PCN number of the band, and the actual file that it read it from, the name of the file, where it's located. I can open the file by clicking open. It'll open the Word document so I can actually see the original document, which is stored with my project. I can go and look at my PL5. I'm going to show you the channels here as compared to the PL5. So if I open the PL5 and I go into the channels, you can see there's no channels in here right now. And that's normal because prior to coordination we didn't know any channels. So, but I can then say, well, I now know these channels and I can write them. So I click on Write Channels to PL5, and I can go look at the PL5 again, and you can see the channels have been written to the PL5s. And within this editor, I can also read the channels from the PL5 into the editor, but normally that you wouldn't do that if you're using a coordination process, because the channels would be coming from the Word document and go into the PL5s, not the other way around. Now if I choose a different one, rather than double clicking and bringing up the details as I did, I can go into my channel menu and ask it to show the details of the channel here. It's a question of which way you're more comfortable. Exactly the same type of data for this path. Now, the next thing we could do is we can create a report of the PCN status or PCN information. So in this case, I'll just select all the paths I'm interested in. Don't have to select them all, but I will for this example. And I go into my report. And we have a PCN tracker report, which I activate. It will create an Excel report of the PCN status of these paths that I've selected. Takes a second, and there's my Excel report that's created with the paths, the status, the dates, the PCN numbers, bands, and channels. So that's a walkthrough of how we manage frequency coordination within Path Designer, exchanging PCN data, sending them through the Excel file to either ComSearch or Micronet, and getting back the documents in their format, reading the data, and maintaining a database within our project of all this information.